Hello everyone and welcome to the KneeDown Podcast. My name is Matt Grant and today we have another special guest on the KneeDown Podcast. Today we have the MotoGP eSports champion, not once, but 2 times, JackHammer. Jack, welcome to the KneeDown Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here, mate, and I'm really keen to chat to you about this because people on the outside may just think eSports champion, MotoGP, gaming, but you're actually really knowledgeable about MotoGP, and we've actually had some great chats about MotoGP, World Superbike, BSB, so I'm hoping we can talk about that in this one today and share your knowledge, because you have a vast amount of knowledge for MotoGP, and would you agree, or are you quite humble in that department?
I'd say I'd like to think I know my stuff, but I won't fully go out there and go, yeah, I know everything. The bottom to everything, but I feel confident to say if there's a trivia question about GP or Superbikes or BSB, I'd have a chance at knowing it.
I think you would, especially from what we've discussed in the past. But let's get into our series of questions here today, because I've got quite a lot to get through, and I'm just going to keep firing them away, and then you just talk as much as you like. So, first and foremost, before we do get to the MotoGP sports side, let's talk about how you got into MotoGP. You're heavily into all bikes racing, but let's focus on MotoGP for now. Who was that influence that got you to watch? Was it a specific moment, a rider, or a family member that got you involved?
So my memory goes back as far as it can. The first thing I remember is at the house I'm in now, which is my grandparents' house. On the TV, you saw a man in a yellow and black helmet in a Fiat Yamaha leathers at Jerez Turn 6 doing a bowling ball celebration. And then the first race I remember was the 2007 Dutch TT at Assen, when Rossi on the special Fiat 500 Yamaha, which really stood out, and I loved it from the moment I saw it. Did a really great 11th to first race, so that's my first memory, and that's what put me really, I think.
And your family are interested, obviously. Your mum's really heavily into bikes as well, isn't she? So did she get you into that? Was it a case of everyone watching on the telly and you were curious to find out more?
I think it was just always on, so I think it was sort of natural it was going to happen.
Just go and have a little look anyway. But speaking of the esports side, and speaking about the evolution from just playing and watching, you're actually an experienced writer with part of Short Shift News, aren't you?
Yeah.
And how do you feel about writing it compared to playing it and to watching? Do you enjoy the writing side more or less, or maybe on par?
I think it depends on what I'm writing about. If it's just a race report, it's just a race report. But if you can go into writing analysis and stuff like that, which I haven't done much of, it's very easy. Well, one thing, it's very easy to get lost in what you're trying to write about, because you can just go into one really small niche area that nobody cares about. But I think it's fun just to, when you have the chance to analyse and try and understand every point of view, especially with, say, like going off last weekend in Kota, trying to go deep dive everything, all the chaos happened there, it's always fun to look at, write about, etc. So I think that from that point of view, it's always good.
Do you have a favourite article that you've written so far?
There is one I was very proud of, which was my preview for the Moto2 Grand Prix at Le Mans in 2020, because I went through it, and apart from I pointed out Dalla Porta might do something, I looked at Luca Marini's statistics at Le Mans, and they were awful. I was like, he's hardly been in the top 10 in any session or anything like that. So I'm like, well, Luca Marini, yeah, he's just done a great race at Catalonia. I can't see him doing much at Le Mans just because of past history, so it's going to be damage limitation, and lo and behold, he high sides out through La Chapelle, and he had an absolutely torrid weekend. So, I mean, from that aspect, I'm not happy that I managed to predict that someone had such a woeful weekend. More proud of myself, I was able to have the knowledge and understanding that something like that could happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's about having that data. I actually felt a little bit similar this weekend, because I heavily played into the previous video I did regarding Kota's potential 5th winner. And a lot of people were quick to just say, no, it's Marquez. Marquez will win, Marquez will dominate. And lo and behold, it was a surprise. Like, I not predicted, but as you say, you prophesize and you think, extrapolating the data, there's a chance that this could happen. So I completely agree with you. I think when you feel like your data and your research has come together, there is a sense of an achievement. in your case, it's just a very unfortunate that Luca Marini sent himself flying into La Chapelle, because that's one of the worst crashes I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, just watching the Dunlop rear just go out and whap, and it's just, in fact, it goes downhill, it's even bigger drop than it would be normally. It's just, I just remember watching that, like, oh dear. And that's pretty much what cost him, because then that setting back for both Aragon races, and that would cost him the championship.
Yeah, and it was just a monumental crash. I mean, we had Eddie O'Shea on the podcast recently talking about his high side, and that must have taken like 5 minutes in Luca Marini's head compared to like the 2 or 3 seconds that Eddie predicted. So then, how about eSports then? How did you get into that side? Because clearly eSport is the level and a half above the average player. So at what point did you think to yourself, and maybe what game, I'm bloody good at this, and maybe I have a chance of, doing something special with this?
Well, from the moment I started playing the games, I always assumed I was good at them because I could beat the hardest AI, and at that point, because it was FPK 07, PS2, that's all you could, and MotoGP 2, MotoGP 4, those kind of games, that's all you could gauge off. So I always had a sense of, I'm pretty decent at these, and I first discovered online on SPK 11, and I raced, I'd assume on PS3 anyway, would have been the eSport level. Unfortunately, I can't remember their names. I really wish I could. But I would race them, and I'd say I was about half a second to a second off the pace. Now, I've no idea how important setups were on that game, but I was at least half a second to a second. But there was one time where, if you remember the Nürburgring in 2011 on race 2, it was an absolute pour down where Tom Sykes just stayed on and he won the race when it was red flagged. I then decided to do a 20-lap race as Tom Sykes in the full wet, and because I don't know if it's still happened now, but at least back then, if you did a race that had just happened online, you get full lobby instantly. So 16 people joined, and a majority of eSport riders joined in, and I took the lead, cleared off, and won the race. It was only a 3-lap race, granted, but that sort of gave me that instinct that I might be half decent. And then MotoGP 15, I entered my first league. I did decent the first 2 races, got 2 top 5s. In the last race of the season, I was on to potentially get a podium, but that race never happened. And then Valentino Rossi's game is when I understood I might have something, because if you go on YouTube, it's called V-Pro Racing League Jerez Round 4, something like that. And it's me and a guy called N-Jerk just passing each other around Jerez for 15 laps. On the last lap, there was something on the lines of like maybe 9 overtakes. And it came down to the last corner at Jerez. We both knew what we were going to send each, so we both completely blew the corner. So Wally DJ was just watching us in third, nearly took advantage. And yeah, from then on, it's just gone on from there. Then in 2017, the championship launched, and I missed out on qualification twice. The first time at Jerez, I missed out by 0.133 seconds, and then in the second one at Aragon, I missed out by a 10th.
Wow.
And then in 2018, I qualified for the first time at Qatar, but unfortunately I was too young because I didn't read the terms and conditions. So that taught me something. I thought you just pressed, at that point, it's like, yeah, you just agree to everything. But yeah, I was too young. I must have missed it by an inch, because I would have been old enough for the final, but not old enough for then semi-finals. So yeah, that was disappointing. And then from that on, I had a small dip, I think probably just because of the disappointments of not going. And then I qualified for 2019, 20, I was reserving 2020, and then 21 I finally got on the grid, and the rest, I guess you could say, speaks for itself.
And what is the daily routine to be an esports rider, let alone a champion? Because we'll get to the champion side, which is a whole new level. But for the actual daily routine, what has it been for you from finding out that you couldn't get there because you were too young, and then realising that, yeah, I have a chance here? Had the routine impact? Has it changed? Has it gone worse? Is it more intense now? Do you have a particular routine?
There's no like set routine, but it's like before, when the games were less detailed, let's say, because MotoGP 17, it was just, there was the dynamics of the game, but there's not half as many dynamics as there are now. So it's easy to just jump on the game. Okay, done 5 laps, that's enough. I wouldn't do that, obviously, I'd do more. But I couldn't give a specific time because I was too busy playing all sorts of other games as well at the same time. But I'd say from the moment I joined eSports, on average, I'm playing roughly 3 hours a day. That can range, and that's usually in the afternoon. Simply, I just give myself the morning to wake up and do whatever I want to, and then I'll just go out in the afternoon, play as much as I want. I'll know when. If it's not happening, I'll end early. If it is happening, I'll go on for as long as I feel I want to, and then just do whatever I want. Really, I don't set myself any targets of laps I want to do, or time I'm going to spend. It's just purely on how I feel on that day and how I'm performing on that day.
And is this referring to the off season, or when the game is live, the championship's coming up, or does it really ramp up towards the actual esports itself?
Yeah, when esports season comes, that's when I'm playing more. Off season, it's because you spend so much time working towards trying to win the championship. It's always natural, I think, for anybody. You just want to stay away from what you've just done for just a little while. Even though I like to play the games, and it's just like I've spent so much time playing one game pretty much for how many months. You just don't want to. It's like, right, I want a small break, and then I'll play it occasionally, make sure I've not lost anything. Maybe it's something new I could learn that I didn't know at the time. Just try different things, and just experiment and just try to play different games as well, because you don't know what the new game's going to be like. So maybe there's going to be some feature from another game that might appear in the new game, or you might require different riding style. Just you got to try and stay fresh. So you see the riders in BSB, those are going in Spain. You got Josh Brooks in Australia. Make sure they're riding so they don't get any rust. I think it's pretty similar for us.
Yeah. So for the actual viewers, I think it's important to mention as well that we are using the word play, but I think play is not telling the whole story. It is a genuine workout. It's a mental strain of you actually thinking, I need to have my muscle memory to the absolute maximum. I think when we say, obviously I'm going to be guilty saying this too, when we're playing the game, which you are technically, but for you I think it's a lot more serious, isn't it? It's a lot more intense.
Yeah, I mean,
even if you're not aware of it, it certainly feels that way, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, to let's say I've got a controller here. To most people, it just looks like I'm doing that. And I get that when we say race in Malaysia, we're not in 40-degree heat, extreme humidity. We're sweating all over the place. But if you break it down from how you conduct your racecraft, how you mentally take things, how you set up the bike, how you approach the weekend, and when you take all these factors into it, apart from the fact it's not that physically challenging, you're not in these extreme temperature conditions or whatever, more or less it is similar to what the real guys are experiencing. So I think that's just sort of, it's hard to get that connection with those who definitely don't understand it. But I mean, if you just say someone who doesn't understand, you give them the control and go, okay, try and go as fast as the eSport guys, would that maybe open their minds a little bit more?
Probably. I think a lot of people testing and trying it out will, especially if they've never touched it before, they will experience and realise how damn difficult it is. And I know myself, I am, obviously my YouTube channel dedicated to the MotoGP game, and I'm about 2 seconds off you. And I play that a hell of a lot. So the level of just playing it and making content and having fun with it to, I'm taking this serious to the point where I want to become a 2-time eSport champion, is another world of dimension. I think we have people in my server, and as you know, many people we all know in the same circle, all cannot believe how skilled the likes of yourself are, Trastevere and all the others are. It's something we can't even comprehend. The fastest people in our servers are still off you by quite a bit. And I think a lot of that is the sheer determination and time that goes into it. So even when you're having that time off, you're having the off season and you're relaxing, it's straight back into it, full systems go. I think we once discussed that you do around 200 laps in a preparation for a race weekend for eSports. Is that still the case? Did you do that this year? Or last year, should I say?
I mean, I can't say roughly when you go from combining golden practice sessions. It'd be somewhere around that mark, even maybe more. I don't know, but it's very simple. The more laps you do, the better you're going to be. So
pretty much, yeah. But the thing about it, though, if you were to ask the normal player, play the game, average player is probably going to enjoy one race, 25 laps, possibly. Maybe a few less laps. 200, it is a lot of laps that becomes no longer playing. It becomes a job. It becomes work of actually saying, I need to continue now and push beyond that limit. Do you ever feel that sometimes, I wish I could just play the game and enjoy it, or is the mind always focused on, I want to keep improving?
Yeah, it's. I mean, maybe if there's a feature in the game that intrigues me, but it's always just, right, I want to win the championship, I want to do this, I want to do that. So the fun part of the element is just riding the bike and racing to me. So, I mean, I've done other things and tried to explore different parts of the game as well, but for me, purely my entertainment or thrill is just playing the game and racing with other people.
And even now that you're a 2-time champion, the pressure is on now to go for 3 times, 500 plus days, reigning champion. What is the next level of that? Because playing it is one thing, experiencing all that pressure. Is it only going to get even more intense now for you?
I've no idea. I guess I'll find out when the moments arrive. Ideal scenario, become a 4-time champion next year. That's the target. But just got to take things in my stride, and if things come more difficult, then obviously I'm going to have to adapt to that situation. And if things come easy, then obviously it's a lot less pressure, but I can't see things getting easy. Just got to go with the punches, and let's see how things progress.
I think you're rather even-keeled at the moment, but I know you, and I know how competitive you are. I get when that moment comes, your adrenaline will be rocketing high as the heartbeat of Davide Tardozzi's when the time comes. And I'm sure during the eSport competitions, I think your demeanour changes. You're so laid back now, but I think when the business comes down and the metaphorical visor comes down, it's straight business. And you feel that adrenaline, you feel that intensity when you're there, right?
Oh yeah, like if you watch Portimao, the Spring Race at Portimao last 2023, you'll see me run really wide after Craig Jones up the hill into turn 10-11. The reason why that happened is because my heart was racing that much. I was starting to lose a bit of feeling in my fingers. So I had no sense where I was braking. Well, I knew where I was braking, but I didn't know how much brake pressure I was delivering. So that's why I ran a little bit wide, and then the heart rate then came down, and then that's when I started to pull away a little bit.
I have experienced that myself, and the feeling of your fingers are numbing and you can no longer press those buttons is a weird feeling, and you want to stop it because you're trying to do something, but the intensity is so strong. And how do you manage that? Is it something you've now managed better as you've gone on, or is it something you still get the jitters about?
It's just conditioning, really. I think every situation is different. Like for me, the reason why my heart rate was going so badly is because I could have won both sprint races beforehand, but I had really bad starts, which cost me. And because I was so determined to win Portimao after being sort of screwed over in my debut in 2021, I went, right, I've not won a sprint. I'm not won at Portimao. I want to tick both boxes now. And I think I just built myself up into thinking I've got to win. I can't finish second. I refuse to finish second. That it just heightened that pressure, anxiety, all those kind of things. But I think it's just, every race is different. Some races there's no nerves at all. Some there's a lot. It's just it depends on the circumstances and the scenario of whatever's approaching that race.
So comparing it to 2021 when young JackHammer debuted to now 2-time champion, what point did you realise that, you know what, I'm not just here to be also ran, I'm here to compete and I'm here to win? What point was that? Was there a specific turning point in your mind?
Well, on my debut I was like, right, because I realised how fast I was at Portimao and I was fast at Mugello as well, so I'm like, well, I could just win both races on my debut, why not? And in my opinion, I will stick to this forever. I should have won that first race at Portimao because everybody else chose medium tyres. I was doing personal hards. And when you look at from the moment I restart from my crash, I gained something like 3 seconds on Trast and Adrian. So I do regret not being patient. I just sat behind Andrew and didn't try to overtake him and just let my tyres come to me like I should have done. I would have won. And then because I had such a downer, I then lost that motivation and that killed it. I'd say 2022, I fought back, but again, crash at the Red Bull Ring. It's the strangest crash I've ever had. Going into turn 9, just turned in and the front folded. No warning whatsoever, and that really zapped my confidence. So in 2023, I knew I had a good chance at winning because I was really fast in the Pro Draft, which wasn't normal. Because I topped the Pro Draft for the first time, I was like, I might have a chance here. And then from the moment I won in Catalonia, I had a few doubts because of how Mugello and Mazzano went, but I was like, yeah, I know I can win, and I'm going to try and do my best to clinch that first title.
And what was the point? Would you say it's that Pro Draft? That was the bit that, you gave you that motivation. I thought, you know what? I've got a good shot at this.
Yeah, it planted the seed, but I think it didn't start to grow until I won in Catalonia. Once I took that win in Catalonia, went, you can win. It is possible to win. Go on and try and win the whole thing now. But it's
did your approach change?
Pardon?
Did your approach change to that? Did you get a sense of, I need to put more effort into this now, I need to keep on going, or just keep on doing what you're doing?
I just kept doing what I'm doing. I've not really changed much since 2022, so I've just kept doing the same. Made all of these small things I've changed over the years that I probably won't know unless I could go back in time and watch myself what I'm doing, but generally everything's the same since that point.
Because I found that MotoGP 23 really suited your racing style. 24 similar, but probably more even, but 23 was really important for you. I remember us having this conversation before on my channel, how you really enjoyed like the pickup effects and the way to use the bike, and definitely not using first gear and things like that. Do you think 24 was a more even-keeled one, or is it a more even level playing field, or did you find that the advantage was still the same for you?
No, definitely 24 was more even, because 23, if you look at all the qualifying, I still don't know why, but the moment you chuck soft tyres in, I had on average 0.2 advantage. Whereas this year, you go into qualifying and any of the top 5 or 6 could take pole position. So I think it's just riding style dependent, track dependent, all those kind of factors. Who was the favourite to go to pole position? But I was still saying strong lap times. I was pole position 4 times out of 9. So. 9 times, 4 out of 9 times. So, not. I mean, the advantage was obviously a lot smaller, but I'm still one of the best qualifiers, which is something I did have to change for 23 because in 2022, I started 4 5 times, had 8 second row starts and 2 third row starts, and my starts are terrible anyway. So that's what really set me on the back foot. So I knew I had to fix my qualifying because. If you're not starting on the front row, it makes that life a little bit more hard.
Yeah, you're going to have a tough time, aren't you, from second and third row is going to be even more tough. But, I mean, you're all aliens in that field, so how did you manage to say, I know my weakness now, I'm going to fix qualifying? So how did you fix qualifying? Was that just a change of mentality, or it just worked?
Honestly, I've got no idea. It just came in 23 when I did the Pro Draft. I went, yeah, right. No, well, I tell a lie. It was in SPK 22 when we did it was the league of what's now the WRLD, was EU Pro at the time. And it was, I want to say it was Donington Park where I got second place in qualifying. I was like, oh. And then Philip Panda got like 7th because I really struggled with the turning on that game. I think that's probably just the setup I was running. And then it came to San Juan. And San Juan was such it reminds me so much of Portimao up and down and lots of change of direction and stuff like that. And I got pole position. I was like, maybe I can do good pole times and stuff like that. And then that led to the Pro Draft. So I think again, it's just little things just transfer into bigger, better things.
So it's those small victories, isn't it? Just every single small victory take the momentum, take the motivation, and just keep on pushing to the next level. But For you guys already, as we've spoke about, the abilities of you guys are it's probably not so clear, but do you know what it is that the eSport riders have that the rest of us don't?
To put it simple, probably just more talent. I think it's that simple.
Pure talent, yeah?
I mean, you've got riders who maybe aren't less talented, but put more work into the close that gap there, but I think the top riders, they're there because they've got the talent to do what they can. Those who aren't as talented obviously have to work harder, but if the two people are doing the same amount of work, obviously that gap is going to not be as close. So I think, there's no reason why anyone who's currently 2 or 1 seconds off the pace can become eSports soon enough. But I think ultimately, if you've got the talent to ride the bike while in the game, then that's probably what the difference is.
And do you find that it transitions to other games as well? So if you ever played a car game or MX or something like that, do you feel like, you know what, I'm still just good at this?
MX, I'd say no, because I've never given it enough time to try and fully understand. I know MX versus ATV on the old games, I could do well on them, but the MXGP games, no. Driving games, car games, I'm fairly decent at them. I mean, it does. When Portimao first came onto F1, I was within a second of the eSport drivers without a setup, so I don't know how I would have done if I put a setup on, but the potential's there, but it's just I'm obviously stronger. Put me on 2 wheels instead of 4, I'll go a lot faster.
The better version, anyway.
Yeah.
So do you have... what would you say is your toughest battle so far then from eSports? Either a race moment or just a particular, in general, moment that you found that to be quite difficult and challenging within your eSports journey?
The most difficult race to mentally handle was, I was going to say Misano 2023 because I was first on the first lap, which is very rare, and I went backwards, which is a terrible feeling. However, the DNF at Valencia was a right blow, because I was on pole, I had really good race pace. I was like, all I wanted to do was beat Daniele. That's all. I was like, as long as I beat Daniele, close the championship gap, no matter what it is, that's the ideal scenario. And then just going to turn 1 and the game pauses itself, and then you go straight into the wall, and then eventually the game crashes. It's just like, and then all I can do is just watch the screen and just see what the race result turns out to be. It was probably the biggest mental blow. But in terms of on track, I'd say the toughest battle was probably racing Davide Teresi at Kota, because I watched that race back. I'm like, what am I thinking? What is he thinking? We're doing all these overtakes at Kota in the wet, the front's tucking. We're not going as fast as we can because we were fresh. We'd only just gone. That was only our second race of the day, so naturally we were riding within ourselves. But still, we were taking some crazy moves, and also you got the classic race I did at Phillip Island in 2023, going from making a right mess of the Miller hairpin, then coming from 6th to just about getting first, beating Trask by nothing, but getting it because of fastest lap. So it'd be a combination of all those 4 races.
And that was a critical moment for the championship as well, because if you'd not responded so quickly, then we might not be talking about a 2-time champion here, might we? It was such a critical moment. So regarding real riders, obviously the tracks are exactly the same, the closest it can be, the track names are there, the track corners and everything. Is there anything else from MotoGP that you study that can translate to the game? So is there a rider style that you think, I kind of mimic him, so I'm going to follow his journey and sort of incorporate it into my riding? Is there any of that happens for you?
Yes. So one of them was qualifying, I've just remembered. So one of the things I changed about qualifying was my strategy, and I went, right, who's the best qualifier in MotoGP currently? And it's Pecco. So I went, right, what does Pecco do? Right, he has no marker, and he does his own thing. I'm like, right, I'll do that then. And it's worked.
So just pure focus on my line, no one else around me, no Marquez toes, anything like that, just focus straight on the business. Yeah,
and then, I listen to the commentators, I'm trying to understand what the riders are doing, and I'm like, he's done that, he's done that, he's done that. Oh, he's done that line, he's doing this person's done this, in this race he did this to win, blah, blah, blah. It's just, you've got to try and pick up anything you can and try and remember it, and also talking to people in BSB, that helps as well, like understanding what their setup things would be, how they approach races, so yeah, just all kinds of things like that.
What's been the best bit of advice someone's given you from BSB that has translated to helping you with the bike?
Probably Gary Hayes. There's nothing he doesn't know from what I know. It's just make sure you finish on the podium if you can, or just minimise damage. And also talk about how you set up the bike in the wet. If you change this, what this happens. Also go overlaying data, because we've got data now in the GP games. It's not as far as the ones they're using even in BSB, but it's just just understanding the psychology and also how you go about maybe setting up your bike and what should happen at least when you change one certain thing to the next.
And have you found anything in particular that you've changed on the game and gone, wow, that's woeful? So maybe if you, instead of having the shorter bike in the wet, maybe you had a longer one. And did you find it worked, or is it accurate to real setups? It
goes from game to game. Sometimes the games, I always find it funny that when I go, so I changed this, what should happen? And Guy would go, oh yeah, this should happen. I go, oh, that did happen on this game, doesn't happen on this game.
Right.
And then you ask something else, and it's happens. So there's a bit of inconsistency where they've got it right on one game, and then you go to the next and it's got it wrong, but they fix something else. So
I see.
It's like for me, like the biggest example is the front preload. Like you go on every game, like go from 2019 up to now, and it's just flip flop whether you need a high preload or a low preload, and the same on the rear. So it's game dependent, bike dependent, which is probably similar to what it is in real life. Some bikes prefer higher preload, some prefer lower, some riders prefer higher and lower, but there's just a bit of inconsistency, and it's obviously difficult to do because you can't get everything perfect. But I think we're getting to a stage now where hopefully everything's starting to get more sort of right. Hopefully,
yeah. And have you found that over the past two games, is that transition going that way?
Sometimes I keep forgetting what each setup does. So. I know, like, springs going softer makes sense, springs going harder makes sense, so that bit's not difficult. I think it's when you gain this, like, the rebound and the compression extension, moving the steering plate and the swing arm and the gears and all that stuff. So I think they're doing the right thing, but I'm not a qualified mechanic, so I can't fully say yes or no.
It's an idea, that, isn't it? We need to get a qualified mechanic to make setups for the game and see if it actually transitions well, and bring it back.
Get like brains or something. Go, change this, see what happens, and then see if it actually works or not.
That would be extremely fascinating. It really would, especially someone with your skill and talent, because be able to explain exactly what this bike is doing in the virtual form for a real life mechanic. We've definitely got an idea there, Jack. We should team up on that eventually. Now, I think you're kind of forced to say it. I think. But do you have a preferred bike in the games? And I mean, as many of you as you've ridden. Now, obviously, you've been riding with KTM for the past few years, so you might have to say KTM. But from your experience from playing the other games before then, did you have a preference?
I always loved the 500s.
Oh, okay. Any particular one?
Rossi's Nastro Zero Honda. Just the first. From memory, the first GP bike I rode. So. On a game, so
right, I see.
There's an actual connection. Then obviously the Fiat Yamaha and stuff. Just all the historical bikes. And SPK when you go to the Xerox Ducati, the Tincarte Honda, the Santander Yamaha, the Corona Suzuki, stuff like that.
But now it's currently KTM then for the MotoGP games, and probably will be again this season, I'm guessing.
We'll find out. I can't, and I'll never say yes or no. Just I've got to qualify first, and then we'll go from there.
I'm pretty certain you will, as we always say every year. But I like your methodology and it works, so don't change a thing. But let's change up the pace a little bit then, Jack. Got some quick fire questions for you, which I don't want you to think too much about. Just answer whenever you feel you've got the answer. So, first things first. What's your favourite track in MotoGP eSports?
Portimao.
I knew that one. I know you like that one. Wet or dry conditions, which is more fun?
Depends on the situation, but I'll go dry.
You'll go dry? One eSports rival you loved battling against?
Ricardo Bottaro.
Best overtake you've ever pulled off?
My move at turn 17 on Davide Turrisi at Kota on lap 6.
Favourite MotoGP game? Or bike racing game, since we both talked Superbike games too?
SBK 07.
Oh, 07. I liked 08, but 07's good as well. Now, I'm going to switch it up. Let's talk real MotoGP. Best MotoGP rider of all time?
Valentino Rossi.
Most underrated rider on the current grid?
Well, it would be Frankie, but he's done really well this season, so I can't say Frankie.
I think it's still fair to say, if you want to say it.
Yeah, I'll go Frankie.
Go Frankie? If you could join one MotoGP team tomorrow in any capacity, which team would it be?
Probably Ducati.
Just any factory Ducati, you mean? Or
Factory Ducati, VR46 Ducati.
as long as it's Ducati, then
Yeah,
we're happy.
It doesn't make it could be any team. It doesn't make a difference to me. I'm happy with any team, really.
Favourite MotoGP race that you've watched?
Catalonia 2009.
Ah, of course. Which track, if any, would you remove from the MotoGP calendar?
I don't know.
Stumped.
Yeah. It'd be one of the
I also
Spanish,
had difficulty
it'd
writing
be one of the Spanish tracks because there's no,
so many of it.
I'll go with the one at Valencia because historically it's not produced the greatest of races compared to the other three.
That's fair. That's a fair point. Now, regarding the game side, I actually want to quickly put in this because I'm actually curious on this one. Give me your favourite MotoGP tracks if you were to organise an eSports competition which would benefit you.
Portimao, Kota, Catalonia,
Portimao again. Portimao again.
Yeah, Portimao again. Well, the European Grand Prix or the Algarve Grand Prix. Donington Park.
Oh, nice. So you chuck a little historical one in there.
Yeah.
That's nice. I like that idea. So, last bit then, a few more quick fire questions because I do quite enjoy these now. It's always nice to get you people answering on the spot. If you could swap places with a MotoGP rider just for one race, which rider would it be?
What current?
Any. It's up to you.
No, I think it'd be very interesting just to see live his life for a day. So I'll just go Pedro Acosta.
Okay, that's cool. I like that one. If MotoGP didn't exist, or eSports didn't exist, what do you think you would follow, or what would you think you would compete in instead of?
No idea.
No? Would you not be maybe the F1 eSports, anything like that?
Potentially, but I couldn't put a absolute yes on anything really. I'd be good at if it was Ride eSports or SBK eSports, then maybe. But in terms of things that are actually in place now, nothing really. Apart from maybe that one on there was an eSports competition on the same people who make the TT games. But I can't remember what the game's called. Rims.
Oh, Rims Racing.
Yeah, the one on Rims.
Yeah, there's also Supercross eSports too. So that maybe you could get into eSports in that one.
Maybe, I don't know.
Describe your racing style in one word.
Smooth.
Smooth, I like that. One rule you'd change in MotoGP if you were in charge. Or add, if you want to add something there. Or even remove. More than 10 riders on the grid at one point, no? You can't run away from a bike if you can go to...
Yeah, it's hard because off the top of my head, I'd get rid of the tyre pressure rule within reason.
Yes.
Within reason.
I
think for a safety perspective, it's the right decision, but there needs to be a finer line and easier understanding and black and white. There's got to be a way to try and improve the rule because getting penalised because your tyre pressure's too low. I mean, if you can maybe work out how much time they've actually gained, you would gain just from that. Maybe they can do it that way or something. I don't know, but fix that, or get rid of it entirely. But obviously, you got proper safety issues. So
yeah, I agree. I think it needs to be some more leniency to that because it's so sketchy and it's unfair to just completely disqualify someone for or lose a dramatic amount of time. But last question then: win by 10 seconds or a last lap battle? What's better for you?
Purely depends on the situation because 10 lap win by 10 seconds is a lot calmer, but a last lap battle is a lot more fun. And I'll go last lap battle because it's a lot more fun and it's exciting for the viewer, and it's more maybe in that short term moment it's a lot more satisfying.
Yeah, I think maybe that's a good point actually, because if you won an esports race by 10 seconds though, the competition are going to be really really concerned.
Yeah.
So that's maybe something to think about. So regarding esports and the future of our virtual competition, what do you see changing in the next 5 years, if anything at all?
Absolutely no idea. I mean, I know they're working on doing updates and changes. I would like them to host a round at one of the actual Grand Prix again, because that's I think it's just fun for all our riders. The teams can watch us as well. You know, it's cool having it. I mean, having the final at an actual esport event's cool, but I would just like, it's just a lot doing it in Valencia Mugello. It's really fun just to walk around the paddock, see whoever, watch the racing as well, and experience the good European weather. Which is we've got some decent weather in the UK right now, but obviously it's not reliable.
It's not quite as good as the Tuscan hills in Mugello, though, is it? So I think, as well as that, I think from a fan perspective, it's always cool to see that integration between esports and the official MotoGP. And I've always thought that was one of those moments as a fan, as a dreamer, as a believer in themselves and stuff. And I think even for children and for the growing people who are getting into esports, it was so much more superlative to think that I could be there in Mugello, where the likes of Rossi, Marquez and the top riders are, and think, you know what, I could be there at the same time, playing and racing and the same track and the thing. So I totally agree. I think they have to bring that back. It's just the last competition was great, and the ending was fun. You know, with the designated area and arena for it. But it's just so much more cooler to be at the track. So I think they should bring that back. And if they ever do, I would be really pleased. And hopefully I get to go and watch, to come and see you there and battle in either Mugello or maybe Valencia or even Catalonia if they ever brought it to one of the other Spanish rounds. But would you ever be interested in trying to transition this into a full racing career and moving on from esports? Or do you think esports is something I'll do regardless, even if I race on the roads or tracks or anything like that?
Yeah, I put me racing on the roads or track, whatever, at a 0.01% chance, truly, because I do have motion sickness, and also I can't take tablets. So basically that means after every practice run you do your X amount of laps and then you come in the box, I'd either be very extremely nauseous or be throwing up. So say there's a red flag like in Portimao in Superbikes, I'd be absolutely useless for the second half of that race. I'd be that fatigued. And
do you ever get motion sickness from the games?
No.
Not at all. Have you ever tried virtual reality?
No.
Don't. If you have motion sickness, you will be really ill.
Yeah.
Unless, maybe try it, maybe you want to experience it. But I didn't realise that was such a problem. Is that something that can be worked upon? Do you struggle in the car and things like that?
No. It's when there's a lot of like bouncing and movement, and so like go-kart. I discovered it when I was go-karting for my birthday. And
right.
It was. I mean, it made it a very memorable day. The fact that I won the race, all that. I came out the car, and then it all came out.
And there's nothing that can be done for that. No, I mean, I'm not an expert.
Well, I mean, there's medicines, but if there were, I'd have to take it in liquid form. But
I think maybe just constant doing it as well, and maybe you would eventually get used to it.
No, because
or is it every time?
It's every time I can't go on roller coasters. The last time I went on the roller coaster, my face was bright red, my cheeks made me look like a chipmunk. So it's just it's a no-go.
Wow, that's amazing. That's terrible, but it's amazing at the same time. So I do apologise for that for you on your side. But I guess we'll transition a little bit more into a more positive topic then. What advice would you give to any MotoGP aspiring esport players?
Just keep playing the game and just keep practicing, and then hopefully you'll find time. Try and follow the ghosts and just keep progressing if you can.
Now, if you were to take on a MotoGP rider in the game, obviously you would probably batter them because you're so fast at the game and they haven't got that experience. But let's say you could race against them in any form that you wanted to, maybe on even field. Would there be a legend or current rider you'd want to race against?
Well, obviously Rossi, I mean, it's sort of the easy one, and then probably from the current grid. Pecco, Frankie, Pedro or Miller.
Now, I know when they did the 2020 I can't think of the name of it, but when the COVID strikes and MotoGP had their indoor competition where they had all the riders racing, Rossi wasn't great at the computer game. He got on the podium, I think, but he wasn't amazing. But I think Alex Marquez was really good. Would you ever take him on?
Yeah, but I think the fastest was Quartararo, but he had a very win-it-or-bin-it attitude, whereas Alex Marquez,
he did, yeah.
Marquez he wasn't as fast, but he just stayed on the bike. So
at the moment, he's doing the same.
Yeah, I think Pecco's a good gamer as well. So and Vinales, and Lorenzo as well, and Alicia Spargo. So there's a lot you could choose from.
It's quite a few, isn't it? I'd like to see that happen as well. I actually really enjoyed that, and it was certainly something fun for the viewers whilst we waited for MotoGP to come back. And I watched it again recently, as a matter of fact. I had a good laugh over it. But speaking of funny things and what's making you laugh, has there ever been a funny moment or something weird that have happened to you that actually made you laugh while racing during the high stakes competitions?
Well, during the practice in Milan, there was a lot of red flags when we were doing the Mugello flag to flag race, because everyone was lots of crashes at either Casino Valley or Turn 1. And there was just a glitch that happened to my bike. I don't know I can't remember for life what happened, but I just said, "Oh, Danny, look at the screen," and he burst out laughing. So I can't remember what it was, but that's that. And then I'd say, watching back when you look at the absolute manic crash of Portimao when I got caught up in, it is funny because you see Ricardo Vitaro and Planet H's bike just flying out the sky. But in terms of in the actual races, I don't think anything funny's actually happened, thankfully, because you don't want. Oh no, okay. There was a funny moment. It's just in the fact that in the qualifying of Australia, me and Davide Teresi did a session beforehand and set the same time, and then we did the session again, and we just did the exact same times again.
Wow.
It was 23.8 something, and then Davide unfortunately had to ruin it and improve his lap time to secure pole. So
no fun at all. That's it's too selfish, that.
Yeah.
So let's talk back real MotoGP again. How much do you follow MotoGP, BSB, World Superbike? How often would you say you watch every session, press conferences, the lot, or just catching the races on weekends?
I try to watch BSB combo. I keep an eye on the live timing. And then GP, you can't watch the press conferences if you've got TNT, but keep an eye on what the riders are saying. And then from practice, I try to watch all the practices, the warm-ups, everything. I try my best to watch everything I can.
And what's your take on the championship so far? Have you got any early predictions, or have your predictions that you've made so far come true?
Well, I wasn't at all surprised that Marquez came out as dominant as he did. I was a little bit worried about Pecco because you could tell he wasn't 100% happy, but you can see that I've always stuck that Qatar is going to be the true test point of where Pecco and Mark are, because Qatar historically is not a fantastic track for Mark, and Pecco won there last year and second year before. So it'll be a good gauge of, is Pecco going to actually be able to give Mark a good run for his money, or is it's going to have to be Pecco's going to have to rely on Mark's mistakes, which is kind of ironic considering Pecco lost the championship last year because he had 8 DNFs. But when he won his Moto2 title, he had no DNFs. So it's going to be just a intriguing development, I think, of just how everything plays out. And obviously, Alex Marquez, if he keeps being, let's say, the Aaron Canet of MotoGP and keeps finishing second, there's no reason why, if he just finishes second in every single race, I mean, that won't happen. But if it somehow did, I wouldn't be surprised if he turns out to be champion as well.
I'm glad you said that, because my next question was actually going to be regarding Alex Marquez's championship challenge, and I think he's in such a tough situation because of the nature of him being the brother of Marc Marquez. I feel that people, not everyone, but a lot of people don't seem to give him the credit or even realise his talent because Marc is dominating the limelight. But I genuinely feel that he is a genuine title threat this season, and clearly from talking to yourself, I think he is. When do you think this first win will come?
I've no idea. I think he'll have... I wouldn't be surprised if it comes off a collision between Pecco and Marc, because I could very easily see that happening if it's two, with the both like giving each other hardly any room. We saw like in Portimao last year. But yeah. I think I won't be surprised if they say Catalunya, for example, he was really there and fast in the test. Pecco and Marc aren't historic. I mean, Pecco did the double there last year, but I think Alex has a real good potential of maybe winning there. But and in the West, he's very good in the wet, so I think I'd be surprised if it didn't come, because, and so I'd be surprised if all the GP24s on 4.5s, whatever you want to call them now. I'm expecting all them to get podiums and at least half of them to get race wins. Yeah.
Is that including Fermin Aldeguer for a podium as well?
Yeah, I mean, he was rapid at Kota. I mean,
he really was.
I mean, that might be because everyone else was understanding that the tyres were a bit were on the bad side, and Fermin kept pushing. But you got to, at this stage, he's not going to win the championship unless he goes on a manic run. But I think he did the right thing, pushing hard, and unfortunately did crash. But he's showing his talent, which is the most important thing.
So regarding Marquez not being the greatest at Qatar, it's not his favourite track. Pecco is extremely strong. Are you thinking ultimatum time here? If Pecco doesn't win that one and Marc still wins, would you think, oh my goodness, Marquez levels higher here? Or would you think, you know what, it's another blip, Pecco's still getting used to the bike? I mean, he's not gelled completely yet with the GP25. I think it's still a bit more work to be done, but if there's anyone who's going to fix it, it is the Bologna factory.
Yeah, I think it'd be the proverbial nail in the coffin if he doesn't win or beat him. And let's say he goes to Mugello and he doesn't win there, or go to Aston and he doesn't win there, then it's going to be you're going to have to rely on Marc making some errors to keep yourself alive.
And so far, Pecco's on the best start in his MotoGP career, which I think is... I was quite aware that he's actually doing pretty well here. He hasn't bottled it in those situations where he feels like I can't do more, where last season he would push on pointlessly and make mistakes, and you think, you could have just stayed there for 20 points or 16 points. So I think we're already seeing a big mental change to Pecco. I just think it comes across the wrong way to the viewers. I think people are thinking Pecco is he's browbeaten from Marc, when I really don't think that's the case. I think Marc's start has been absolutely phenomenal, but the worst person in Marc's title fight clearly is Marc after the crash in Kota. Do you think that's going to continue? Do we think we're going to see more mistakes from Marc, or is this now a case of I need to be right on my A game because those two behind me will nick my championship points?
I don't know, because it's Marquez, so it's... in my opinion, I think I always knew he was going to crash less because he's going to have to not push as much. He's not going to have to ride over 100%. It's just going to be when the time comes where Pecco and Alex and Digi, Morbidelli and Aldeguer can give him a really good run for his money. Is he going to go, I'll finish second? Or is he going to try and stick his chest out and go, I'm going to try and win every single race I finish?
What would you do in the eSports situation to that? Are you going to stick your chest out and go for every win, or would you think, I'm going to be calm here? Long game.
It would just depend on how I felt in that race. So, like Motegi, I could have pushed on to try and beat Daniele, but I understood that my tyre was starting to go, so I was finished second. But then Chang, the other way round, Chang was like, I can't, I've got to win this race, so I'll take a few risks and try and win. Which did
How long does it
work
take
out.
to make that decision?
I think it's just instinctive.
Straight away, I'm happy with that. I'm not. I mean, I guess it's not even something. It's not a verbal communication. It's like you're not saying, "Jack, am I going to do this?" No, Jack, I'm not. I guess you just simply say, "Right, that's it."
Yeah, it's just Batogi's an 8-lap race, and it was like lap 6. And like the gap's stuck at half a second. I'm struggling with the dirty air. The tyres starting to vibrate and chatter. And I've got a 4-something second gap. There's no point risking a crash here. Whereas in Chang, it's a sprint race. It's only 3 laps. And, it's the last lap. You can't... And the last sector of the track, apart from the last corner, is pretty much impossible to overtake on. So it's like, I've got to make sure I'm leading because then I can control it from there.
So for your predictions for MotoGP eSports this year, would you put yourself atop again and... Whoever in second and third, he's thinking straight away, 3 times. Let's get this over 1,000 days, like we discussed. This championship reign.
I'd like to, but I've got to jump on the game, and then see how other people are, and then you get the understanding, the gauge of where everything is, and then you can and then once you get through the pro draft and you see who's riding, you then get a rough idea who's going to be the favourites for the title.
Well, when you qualify, be sure to let me know. And I imagine we'll have the debate about running number 1 and 67 again this season. I'm guessing you're not going to tell us, are you? Or will you tell us this time, since you've already made that decision last year?
Well, it makes sense to run the 1 again because it worked out so well. But I guess I'll see how I feel. But I've already defended number 1 place, so I don't have to if I don't want to. But I guess it'll just come down to how I feel when the time comes. You
did have your superstitions last year, though, right?
Oh yeah, like from the moment I won, I'm like, yeah, I'm 67, and then I was in a pub in a lovely place called Hartshill. It was by 11 at night, and I was just standing there, sitting there in my own world. I went, nobody's ran number 1 before. No one's defended number 1 before. Why can't I be the first person to? And the whole superstition thing just went out of my head. And it was because Pecco had won the number 1. I went, well, if he can, why can't I? So.
Yeah. And you went to Drayton Manor.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Inside joke for us viewers. If anyone's seen Max and Paddy's Road to Nowhere, then you'll know that Jack stroked a beaver at Drayton Manor. Yeah. He's got the keyring.
Yeah.
I hope it comes up on the screen.
Hopefully.
We did say we'd try and fit that in somewhere in the podcast, and we did.
Yeah, it took me seconds to clock on there.
I know. I thought you were a bit slow in the upkeep then, Jack. I was like, he's not got the memo.
What's the other one? Drayton Manor? Oh, yeah.
So I guess I think I had a few more questions, but you've actually answered most of them already. Because one of the questions I was going to say is if Dorna ever gave the eSports riders a chance to ride a real MotoGP bike, or to at least pillion with a ride of that team, I guess you can't do it because of the motion sickness, so that's a shame.
That might be an exception where I go, I'll just go to whoever's, like, make sure there's a bag where I can throw up in case it happens.
Because if Pedro Acosta is taking you on, he's not going to take it light.
Pedro's taking, I'll hold on for dear. I'm like, right, I'll hold on for dear life. Hoping to get round, and then it's like, I get the bucket or bag ready, whatever.
So if KTM offered you that opportunity and they said, right, pick your riders out of our 4 KTM riders, which one would you choose?
You have to pick Pedro, but you got to think I'm going to go on like an absolute one hell of a ride.
You wouldn't pick Brad Binder?
Or Brad Binder for going sideways.
Getting that rear tyre, that would be ridiculous.
I mean, the safest option would be Enea or Maverick because they're just so smooth. And Enea, he'll be really... Well, Enea would be really fast at the end compared to everybody else.
Yeah, so the more you've calmed down, the better you feel, and it goes faster and faster.
Yeah, but yeah, you just have to choose Pedro because it'd be very exciting. I think quite entertaining as well during the experience.
Oh yeah, on the debrief, he'd be making you laugh. He'd be talking about all sorts of things. It'd be An absolute dream, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess the final thing then is just still talking about the crossovers between real-life riders and the MotoGP sports. Will we ever see any sort of crossover? We have seen the likes of Max Biaggi, Danny Pedrosa commentate and be part of the eSports. Do you think we'll get that in the future?
I hope so. 'Cause I think what will help us out is if, like, on the Grand Prix weekend, you see the Talent Cup riders. Say it's the British Talent Cup or the Northern Talent Cup or the American Talent Cup, they all get to ask a question in the press conference. Because if we had another round there, we could ask questions. They could play the game with us, and and then maybe have the crowd play with us, or some. There's some kind of connection we need to sort of spark to help both parties together. I mean, not that the real riders need anything more, but just to help us out, it'd be quite better if, what Miles Turner did with Aprilia with Bez and Davide Teresi. That was great. So if they can do more stuff like that, but maybe as well in the paddock, it could be on for it just help elevate the esports scene a lot better, I think.
I really feel they do need to, because I think there's a lot of talented people here with all knowledge about the sport. They're passionate about MotoGP and deserve the exposure. So hopefully in the future that can happen, and I'm hoping things like our podcast here today and letting the people out there who follow the real MotoGP will also understand now that that the esports thing is a dedication, it's a passion project to try and become the best in the world at the game, and it's not just as easy as picking up the game, pressing the right trigger, and just going for it.
Yeah, you gotta. Like there's some races, 2020. Well, last year there wasn't so much tyre conservation, apart from in the flag to flag race when we all stayed out on wets because the tyre was melting and the bikes moving all over the place, and some corners the front were just took with no warning. But on 23, when you chose the hard front tyre, there were some tracks like Catalunya where the front tyre would be gone within 5 laps, and you'd have to manage using the front and rear brake and when you shift down and how you shift down, how you turn into the corner, and when to accelerate. There's all that management there which you probably can't see because it looks like you're mashing a trigger or a button, but you do that. When you look, if I show people the data, you can see the graph of when things happening, and it does make sense somewhat of when I do this happens, and etc. etc.
It would be nice if they showed the graphics out on the live feed as well, certain riders' temperatures and stuff, because sometimes I think they miss that. I know when I did my own competitions, I missed that too. He wouldn't put the tyres on, and the game doesn't accurately depict what the player is using at that moment in time, unfortunately. But I think little things like that would be interesting. Even the gamepad viewers as well, so you could see how you're pressing the buttons and that, and maybe see what it takes to do that and the smooth ability. Because, as you said earlier, it's all about practice and fine-tuning your skills, and it's exactly the same way a real rider would get on the bike, practice until you've got it into a situation. So I think that would be a major positive for the MotoGP sports, and I certainly hope that we get stuff like that in the future. But before we wrap up this podcast, Jack, have you got anything last you'd like to mention? Something that maybe something for the fans, maybe something for yourself, or anything you'd like to mention towards the end of this podcast?
No, not really. I can't. Nothing on the top of my head. Just hope everyone enjoyed the podcast, and hope you all enjoyed watching all the seasons, all the championships go on this season, and hope we have some more good racing like we've had so far.
And if we wanted to follow JackHammer, we can best find you on Instagram, correct? What is your Instagram handle?
Top of my head, Jack_Hammer 4658. I'm on Facebook, but instead of the underscore, it's a space. And yeah, I am on Twitter, but I hardly ever use it, so maybe no point in going there. But yeah, there's my two.
But they can follow you there, but
you
might
can,
not
but
interact.
you're not going to gain anything really. But yeah, there's the Instagram and Facebook is where I'm most active.
Well, we wish you nothing but the best, Jack. Thank you very much for joining us here today. It's been a pleasure to chat again, and thanks for our conversation about esports and everything MotoGP. But I guess on that note, thanks to Jack, thanks to the listeners, and if you did enjoy this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're watching via Apple or Spotify, share it to your mates. Why not listen to our dulcet tones here on the KneeDown Podcast? Jack, thanks again, mate.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you all very soon. Ciao for now.